WuSA, wake up South Africa. You've been sleeping far too long. Wake up South Africa.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Sri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Shamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschacheta Satarine. So the goal today is to try to help you go more deeply into your japa. And just let me tell you a little bit about my experience with japa. It was probably about 16 years ago that I started teaching japa, and then maybe 14 years ago or 13 years ago, I was able to facilitate some japa workshops, but in conjunction with other senior devotees. So I was both facilitating, but I was also learning. And that included several times with Satchidananda Swami, with Giriraj Swami, Rabindra Sarup Prabhu, Indradumna Swami. So I was growing a lot personally by attending these retreats because I was often a co-facilitator, which meant that I was also participating. So I was really growing in my japa, and then I was taking what I was learning, and then I was teaching it. And I was seeing what was working and what wasn't working. And then I, over the years, was able to kind of boil it down to a few principles which kind of became the essence of what I've taught and which I think have the most dramatic effect on devotees. So it's both what I've learned and what I've seen work for devotees. And so that's what we're going to be sharing. So one of the main things that I learned, and it's quite easy to understand, is that there's a certain mood which is required if we're going to get the most out of our japa and if we're going to go deeply into our japa. And I was thinking this morning, I think some of you, maybe all of you, are musicians of some sort, but if you have to perform, whether you're a musician or whether you're an artist or a writer, sometimes you're called to do something on the spot, and sometimes you'll say something like, I'm not in the mood. I'm just not in the mood. And you ever try to do something when you're not in the mood? It's very difficult, isn't it? Or maybe you have a friend and he's joking and you've just had some tragedy in your life, and you just say, I'm not in the mood for that. I'm in a different mood. And so it's similar with japa. Sometimes we're chanting, but we're not in the mood. We're in the wrong mood. Sometimes we're in the mood that I don't actually want to be chanting, or we're in the mood that I have so many things to do. There's so much on my mind right now. I can't really sit peacefully. Or maybe there's something disturbing us, and it's preventing us from focusing on the holy name. Or maybe we're just really tired. So what we want to do to go deeper in the holy names is we want to connect with what is the mood. What is the mood that I'm supposed to be in? And how do I get in that mood? And what happens if I'm not in that mood? Well, to understand the mood of japa is really not difficult for us, because the mood of japa is really what brought us to Krishna consciousness. You know how Prabhupada says, Krishna, please engage me in your service. And that's what the holy name means. So that's a mood. I want to be a pure devotee. I'm praying to be pure. But Prabhupada said it also means I'm praying not to be influenced or controlled by Maya. That's part of Hare Krishna means engage me in your service. It also means please don't engage me in the service of Maya. So you have both sides. And not only engage me in your service, but engage me purely in service. Help me become unmotivated in my service. It also means, Krishna, please connect me with you more deeply. And it means so many things. And so it's an interesting thing that I found many, many years ago, but I didn't realize how important it was until recently. I read something. And I originally read from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who said we should meditate on what the mantra means when we chant. It's like, you can chant a shloka Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tam sarva papebhyo mukishami ma shuchaha. And then I say, what does it mean? They say, oh, I just learned the Sanskrit. I don't know. This happened. This happened when the Gurukulis, the little 5-6-year-old kids, chanted the verses to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, so what's the meaning? They all said, we never learned the meaning. And Prabhupada said, not good. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, not only should you know the meaning of the mantra you're chanting, but while you're chanting it, that's what your meditation should be. And not only should it be your meditation, it should be your emotional experience. Not just that I think, Krishna, I want to be a pure devotee, but I'm feeling that I want it. So recently I read something. You want me to transfer? I'm the host, and I want to transfer it back. Okay. Host is transferred back to Leela Shakti. And you can transfer it to anyone you want. So recently I read something really interesting. Unfortunately, I don't know the source. I don't think it was Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But having read, when I read Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who said, meditate on the meaning while you're chanting, that just struck a bell for me. It made, because previously I had done some work, and it wasn't in chanting, but a question was asked, when you're doing something, to meditate. Why are you doing it? What's the point of doing this? Because sometimes, you lose connection. You ever do something and you're kind of you're not feeling anything, and you have to think, well, why am I doing this? Like you're going to school and it's difficult. Maybe you think, I don't really want to do this, or this is boring. And then you have to reconnect. Well, why am I doing this? And you remember, oh, I have these goals. I want to achieve this and that becomes your inspiration. So that made, when I read that by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it made so much sense. What am I doing? Kind of that question. I'm chanting Japa, what's going on here? What am I trying to do? Because we know sometimes when we're chanting, we just kind of just chant, robotically or mechanically. So that really struck a chord, and that has really helped me. And then I read something else. It may have been by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who said that if you're chanting a mantra and you're not connected with the meaning of the mantra doesn't have any effect, or it has little effect. So that was like the icing on the cake of that statement. And then I read another statement that supported that. It might have been from Patanjali in the yoga system, that if you don't understand the mantra and you don't connect with it when you're chanting it, it doesn't work. Wow, that's really interesting. And that's our experience, isn't it? We're chanting, and if we're just chanting, just to get our rounds done, it's a much different experience than if we're chanting in the mood where we're connected with what the mantra means. So I want to talk a little bit more about what the mantra means in a way that I think is extremely relevant to us, that can make it very easy to connect. So, as I said, and Prabhupada said, the Maha Mantra means, Krishna, please engage me in your service. That's what we're supposed to be meditating on and what we're supposed to be feeling. But also, we're also feeling another emotion. And what's that emotion? I've served Maya for lifetimes and it doesn't work. And I've suffered. And that's why I'm coming to spiritual life, because it doesn't work. But even though I know it doesn't work, I'm a conditioned soul. And what does conditioned soul mean? It means I'm habituated to turn towards Maya, because that's what I've been doing for life after life after life. So part of the prayer of the Maha Mantra is, Krishna, I'm weak and I tend to turn away from you. Please help me turn towards you. That's the prayer. Like, let's say, for example, you work or you're a student. You're going out in the world every day. And it's not always easy to go out there. And so every morning you're praying, Krishna, please give me strength to deal with whatever I have to deal with. Please help me so I don't give in to my temptations. And you may know the story where Prabhupada said that he prayed every day to Radha and Krishna that he wouldn't fall down. You know that story? It's such a funny story. Prabhupada asked the devotees, what's the difference between me and you? They gave so many differences, and Prabhupada gave his answer, and he said, the difference is I can't fall down, but you can fall down. And the next morning, Prabhupada was praying to the deity, and his servant heard him pray, but he didn't hear what he was praying. So after the morning program, he said, Srila Prabhupada, what were you praying? And he said, I was praying to Radha and Krishna that I don't fall down. And the servant said, well, last night you said you can't fall down. And Prabhupada said, yeah, that's why I can't fall down. Because I'm praying every day that I won't fall down. So I think that helps us understand, if we're connected with the meaning and we're praying, right? Krishna, help me so I don't fall down. Help me overcome my temptations. Help me develop the pure desire to serve, and so forth. And we're deeply connected with that every morning. It's very insulating when we go out in the world. But if we're just chanting and spacing out, this is the perfect word to use for chanting mechanically, spacing out. It's like we're not connected anymore. It's, I have an example. I don't know. If you're not all singers, maybe you won't. This example may not be the best, but you could imagine. Let's say you're a singer. Okay, we'll use Leela Shakti. So Leela Shakti has been hired to sing a song, and the words are, baby, you left me, now I'm blue, please come back, I love you so much, I can't live without you, right? Yeah, etc. So those are the words of the song. And so Leela Shakti is being paid to sing this song. And the song doesn't mean anything to her. She doesn't have a baby who left her, and she's not blue or whatever, right? So she's singing the song, but she can't put the emotion into it because there's nothing to relate to. So she's just singing and is not really feeling anything. Other than, she likes the music. She's feeling the music and everything, but she's not feeling the words because that's not her experience. So sometimes we chant like that. It's just words. We're just chanting words, but we're not feeling what it means. Krishna, I'm stuck here for lifetimes. I've turned my back on you. I don't like this. This is causing me so many problems. I need your help. So So we have to discuss a little philosophy just so we can go more deeply into the holy name. But the beauty of this discussion is that we have all this experience, isn't it? That we're struggling, right? And so sometimes we say the holy name means, Krishna, help me, I need your help. So we all need help, we're all struggling, we've all turned our back to Krishna. That's why we're here, and that's how we stay here. And if we don't turn towards Krishna, we're going to be here for another lifetime. So we're caught, every one of us is caught in a dilemma, a paradox. All of you are practicing Krishna consciousness. You wouldn't be practicing it if you didn't want to be Krishna conscious, right? But we have our conditioning, which is saying, this is too difficult. This is too much trouble. Why are you wasting your time doing this? You could be doing other things. Anyway, you'll never become Krishna conscious, you know. Plus, there's so many things you like that you can't do as a devotee, so, you know, maybe you should just do those things. So that's what Maya is saying. That's our conditioning. That's our mind trying to beat us down. And then the other side, oh, Krishna, help me, help me. Help me, I want to be a pure devotee, right? So we're going through this paradox of this desire sincerely to be a pure devotee and this other desire creeping up saying, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? So when we're chanting, what the mood is supposed to be is kind of like, Krishna, I'm in this helpless condition that sometimes I become overwhelmed by the material world, and I need your help to become purified of this. And I have served so many people. I've served my own mind and senses for lifetimes. It doesn't work. I've only suffered. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Please help me. Help me, help me get over this. So that's the mood of chanting. But the beauty of that mood is it's not artificial, because that's actually how we feel, isn't it? I mean, we all feel that way. Until we're pure devotees, this is how we're going to feel. We're going to feel some tension, some struggle, that I want to be pure, I want to be humble, I want to be respectful, I want to be all these things, but I'm not always that way. But Krishna, I need your help. So that kind of tension is going on in our lives, and that tension is meant to be brought into the Maha Mantra. So when we talk about the mood, what's the mood? The mood is, Krishna, I need help, or Krishna, I'm a mess, basically. And, you know, do you ever feel like you're a mess? You ever have that feeling? Wake up in the morning and go, oh my God, like, how am I going to do this? Well, you know, I've been a devotee now 51 years. It can get worse after 51 years if any of those desires you had when you were 19 years old haven't like completely left you. It's like, then you start thinking, well, when's it going to end? But rather than get discouraged, we become more dependent. Oh, I really need your help, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare. I really have to chant better. I really have to pray more. These things are meant to be the impetus, because chanting japa is like Draupadi. Hey Govinda, I can't do this on my own. You're like, how can you develop love of God on your own? I mean, how do you do that? Factually, I don't know if you know this, but when you come to the stage of bhava, it's called preliminary love of God, bhava, right? And you have to still practice Krishna consciousness to get love. But you can't, in the previous stages, you work your way up, and as you advance, you go to the next stage, next stage, next stage. But when you're in bhava, you can't work your way up to the next stage, because the next stage is love, and that love is given to you. So you can't just, well, I made it from, you know, bhajan or kriya to anartha nivritti, and now I'm working on coming to nishta, and then there's ruchi. I just keep working the process. I go right up the ladder. But when you get to bhava, you can't get to prema, because that is in Krishna's hand, and he has to personally decide, okay, D, you're going to get. Lila Shakti, you're going to get. You know, tomorrow at 3 p.m., you're going to get love. And there's nothing, you know, all you can do is chant. But there's nothing you can actually do to get it. So our whole spiritual life is a little bit like that. It's like even to get to the other stages, we definitely feel like we need help. So that's the mood when we chant japa. So what's the problem? This is my analysis of the problem. And as we work and live in this world, or study, or exist in this world, our general mood, or our general, you could say, the frequency of our mind, it's not in a meditative frequency. It's not like we're living in the forest, you know, and we're just, I went out to gather some fruits today, and then we cut them. We cut them. We sat down. I'm just totally sattvic, Then we went down to the river. We took a bath. We got some water, and then we chanted Japa, and then we read the Bhagavatam, and then we milked the cows. Well, you would have milked the cows in the morning, and we milked the cows, and then we bathed the cow. We're not living that kind of life, are we? Obviously not. So if we were living that life, then sitting down to chant japa, we would already be in this very sattvic consciousness, right? We would always be in this very devotional mood because that's our lifestyle. Our lifestyles are much different, aren't they? I got to get out. I got to get to work. I got to do this. Get in the car, get on the bus, get on the train. I'm late. This coworker, this teacher, this boss, this new law by the government, the neighbors are bothering me, whatever. So, we have so many things we're trying to accomplish, right? So what happens when we sit down to chant if we don't change the mood? You start chanting and your mind goes bing, 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 bing. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this, I have to do that. This person's bothering me. Well, I'm going to talk to them, at work and tell them, stop bothering me, etc., etc. Because that's the mode the mind works in to function in this world, right? We're always planning, isn't it? I have to do this. How are you going to be productive if you don't plan? Every seminars, goal setting, make your to-do list, put your time, get it done on time, be responsible. So we're very much in this passionate mood because we're all in the mood of accomplishment, isn't it? I got to get things done. I got a meeting at this time, then another meeting at this time, then I'm going here, meet this person, then we're going to do that, isn't it? So that has to stop when you sit down to chant, because if you don't stop it, your mind is right? The biggest question asked is, how do I control my mind when you chant? And my answer is, you can't. But that's not the only answer. You can't if you don't flip the mood. You can't. It's impossible. If you don't flip the mood, you're not going to be able to control it. Maybe after 8 rounds, finally, my mind finally calmed down after 8 rounds. Do you want to wait 8 rounds for your mind to calm down? I don't want to wait. I want to start on the first bead. Wouldn't that be good? Right there on the first bead. Yeah. So that's my plan. So what I realized was, for many of us, when we begin chanting, our life is like the movie of our life is still on the screen of our mind. Even when you get up in the morning, because when you get up in the morning, what does your mind start thinking? What do I have to do today? How am I going to do it? It's just like, and how long have we been thinking like that? Like every day since we were like 2 years old, basically. So unless we do something to shift the mood, it doesn't work. I am a musician, and sometimes I've done performances, and it's like the performances in the evening, you gotta be in the mood. You can't mess your day up, get in a big fight with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or don't eat enough and go on stage at 8 o'clock and expect to perform. You're not in the mood. You're just disturbed. You can't do it, right? Leela Shakti, you ever had that experience? You imagine you're a traveling musician, and you're performing concerts every night, how difficult that is? Because you have to be in the mood. Of course, they just take drugs to solve the problem, right? But you have to be in the mood. You have to be in the mood to do it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Or you're a surgeon, you're performing heart surgery. You can't, just have a fight with your wife and go into surgery. So everything requires a mood, isn't it? Right? Just look at life. Things have different moods. I do videos. Some of you may see my videos. I do videos every day, but I don't do one video every day. I release one every day, but some days I do 5 or 10. And some days I do nothing because I'm not in the mood. And I sit in front of the camera. Okay, record button's on. Okay, what am I going to talk about? And I start talking. It's like nothing comes out. And some days it's like, knock it out, knock it out, knock it out. In fact, it was so funny. I did an ad for a course, and they did the transcript. And I was looking at the video and the transcript, and I was looking at the transcript, and I was like, oh my God, this is like a transcript. Like I wrote it out and I'm reading it, but I was just ad-libbing it. And my wife said, how do you do that? And I said, sometimes I'm just in the mood and it comes out like I was reading. And sometimes I can't even read it when it's on the screen. It doesn't come out right because I'm not in the right mood. I'm not, you know, you ever gone to a class where the person's kind of talking like this and, you know, everybody's kind of trying to focus on what they're saying, but they're not really in the, what do you call it? They're not really in the mood. You ever been to a class like that? How did it feel? Kind of, you felt like the speaker, right? Have you ever chanted japa that kind of felt like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare. Oh my God, 15 rounds left. Hare Krishna. You ever felt like that, right? So, what I would like to say is that the most important thing you can do to improve your japa is create the mood before you go into it. Because once you enter that zone, when you're in the mood, you don't have to worry about the mind. You don't have to worry about boredom or anything. Everything just works. When, you know, it's just like when you're, what do people call it? Do they call it in the zone? What's the common word? You know, I'm in the zone. Is that it? Yeah, I did that concert. I was in the zone. It was amazing. I went in the studio. It was amazing. I was in the zone. I was working on my book. I was in the zone, and I wrote for 8 hours, and I didn't even eat for 8 hours, and I didn't even realize where the time went. And I read it the next day. I can't even believe that I wrote that. Right? People have that experience all the time. So when you're in the zone, things happen naturally. When you're not in the zone, it's like there's a wall and you can't penetrate. So that is the biggest problem that I've seen with japa. It's meant to be done a certain way, but we often approach it very ritualistically. Oh, I have my rounds to chant. It's a number. Just get it done. And we approach a relationship like a ritual. Like, let's say you're married, right? And you make an agreement, your husband's going to come home every night at 6, and you'll have dinner at 6:15, right? But he's not into it because he's got so much to do. He wants to come home at 7, but you insist 6. So now he sits down for dinner, and what's on his mind? All the work he would have finished if he could have stayed till 7. So he's totally not present. Ladies, you ever have that experience? Men not being present. The ladies are like, I never had an experience when he was present. What are you talking about? So, but you can imagine a situation. He's not present. He doesn't want to be there. He's not there. And he's eating. He can't really get involved. He's not interested in hearing you. He's just kind of silent. And you're like, okay, time out. And you say, look we need to relate to one another. We agreed on this. This is really important for our relationship because we don't spend that much time together. He's like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. And then he flips the switch and he gets into the mood. Now he's talking, conversation. Tell me about your day. What's going on? And you tell him, oh, I had a really hard day. Oh, that was so bad. I'm so sorry to hear that. He's totally present. He flipped his mood, right? And what got him to flip his mood? Because he realized this is important. This is what we agreed on. Same thing when you chant japa. You have to flip your mood. Because the mood that most of us enter japa is just the mood we're in all day, which is basically zzz, isn't it? Right? I mean, you're probably thinking, what am I going to do after this class is over, right? That's just zing, 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 zing. That's, the society we live in. It's so passionate, isn't it? Okay, so how do we do this? This is what I think can help can help you the most, try to remember that when you pick up your beads, it's like that guy coming home. Like, I have to drop work off at the door. When I walk into my house, that's got to go off. Everything else has to go away. And now I have to be present for my wife, or reverse it, ladies coming home, present, or whatever it is. I'm going into the library. Now I have to shift. We're focusing. I'm going in wherever I'm going to the doctor, shift, whatever. There's a shift that has to be made. So when you touch your first bead, if you can remember, and if you practice this, you won't have to remember, it'll happen automatically. But initially, remember, now I'm connecting with Krishna. Like this is a different mood from my normal mood. And so what's that mood? That mood is, now I'm praying. What am I praying for? To become a pure devotee. I'm praying for help against all the Maya that chases me around every day, all my conditioning. Or I'm praying for empowerment to do my service. I'm praying to be qualified to even be called a devotee. There's so many things you can pray for. Whatever your circumstance is at that moment in life, you can pray for through the Maha Mantra. But when you touch the beads, if you can get this, that when you touch the beads, shift. It's just automatic, you shift. And if you practice what I'm saying, after a few months, as soon as you touch your beads, it will shift. You'll immediately know. You won't, it's like the man coming home. When he opens the door, it's like, okay, shift. It'll become a habit. And if this happens, then you're going to notice a huge difference in your japa. Because when you enter this mood, all the problems of how do I control my mind, and how do I chant properly, and how this and how that, they're all answered. Because once you're in the mood, you don't have those questions anymore. You just do it right. Okay. Is that clear so far? Are there any questions on this yet? I want to practice this. I want to chant a little with you. But before we do, I just want to clarify if there are any questions on what I'm talking about. I think we all know what the mood isn't. We've all experienced that, right? Just get your rounds done somehow or other. The lips are moving. The heart is like stone. You ever have that experience? You ever have the experience that japa is boring? You know what my answer to that is? No, japa's not boring. You're boring. That's actually the problem. Your heart shut down. That's why you're bored, right? So what we're trying to talk here about is heart opening. Okay, so what I would like to do now is chant. We have time. Let's chant around together. And I want you to adopt this mood before you begin chanting. So just like whatever it takes for you to drop your life, just like take the switch on your life and put it on the off button. Your life is now off. And now you've opened the door, nothing with the world of business or anything. The door has been opened. You're coming into the japa house. And there's Krishna, not your wife or husband. There's Krishna. And now you're going to relate. And now in that mood of Krishna, I'm praying to you for your help. I need your help. And whatever you need help with, it can be different every day. Let's enter the mood. And so in this way, we're connecting with the meaning. That's the whole point. We're connecting with the meaning. And the last thing I want to say, I know we have 10 minutes for questions. Yeah, so this will work out perfect. So the last thing I want to say is that when I talk about mood and meaning, I'm not talking about thinking about the mood. I'm talking about feeling the mood. So because the Maha Mantra is a prayer, and prayer is all about expressing a feeling. Krishna, I want to be a pure devotee, and I'm not. And I'm always running after Maya, and I don't want that. I want my heart to be purified. So those feelings, that's what we're trying to develop. Not intellectually, like, oh, the Maha Mantra means, Krishna, let me serve you. That's not going to work, because that's in your head. Let me tell you something beautiful. This will help put it in. It's a side point, but it's actually not a side point. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, the holy name comes, the real holy name comes from Goloka. It enters your ear, it goes to your heart, and then from what's in your heart makes your tongue chant. Hare Krishna, please, it enters my ear, goes to my heart. Krishna, please help me. Krishna, please help me. Help me become pure. Help me become closer. That's what's being expressed by the tongue is the heart, right? And when you chant that way, it's an amazing experience. Otherwise, what happens is the holy name comes, it goes here, and it goes here, and it bypasses this. And that's when we chant like a robot. We're just doing it as a ritual. Does that make sense? Now, one thing you can do also when you're praying and connecting, you can pray, Krishna, help me chant from the heart. You can pray to Krishna to help you chant better. Krishna, help me not chant like a robot. Let me actually feel something. So the prayer is up to you. The general prayer is, I need help. And I need help becoming a pure devotee, but you may get specific about what helps you. Okay? So we're going to begin chanting, and I'm going to go out for 60 seconds because I have to answer the call of nature because I just drank a whole thing of this, and I drank another cup before that, but I'll be back with you shortly. Okay? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I think I came into Bhakti through my first meditation at BYS, the Bhakti Yoga Society at Vets campus. And it made such a huge impact because I had never felt as peaceful, as clear-headed, as calm, as sober as I did after that meditation, after chanting the holy name for the first time. And it's something that was so impactful for me because it was a real life experience of the spiritual world. It was a real first contact with something beyond the physical, which was something that I was looking for, something that I was searching out for and I hadn't found in my previous religious experiences. So chanting the holy name literally quenched my spiritual thirst. And it's something that I'll never forget and I will always be grateful for.
So we're going to chant for a few minutes, and we're going to use the techniques that we were discussing. Okay? All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare. Okay, so we're going to take some questions now. And Leela Shakti, how do you want to do the questions? They raise their hand and you call on them, or they put it in the chat, or both?
There is the option to raise your hand. If you're in the Zoom meeting, you're welcome to raise your hand and you'll be unmuted.
Raise a digital hand or a real hand, either or.
Either or is fine. We'll be able to pick both up. Alternatively, you're welcome to post your questions on the chat panel on the Zoom or on the chat panel on our Facebook page. We'll be able to see both questions. We
Okay.
actually already have a question from Facebook.
Okay.
Coming from Tribhuvanath Das. He says, Hare Krishna, you mentioned how if you do not connect to the meaning of the mantra, it has no effect or little to none. But how is it that we hear of some non-devotees who get some benefits from chanting the Lord's names, even though they don't know what it means? Where
Very
do
good
we
question.
draw the line?
Yeah. It's a very good question. What it means is that it doesn't have the desired effect of giving love of Krishna. It may have the effect of fulfilling material desire. It may have the effect of eliminating sin. But when it says the mantra doesn't have the effect, what is the effect of the Mahamantra? Becoming free from sin is a byproduct. The effect of the Mahamantra is love of Krishna. So if it's not chanted properly, on the stage of Namabhas, which is what you're describing, the second stage, that someone can just say, Hare Krishna! And we go, oh, fantastic. Even if they're making fun. And we think, oh, you've just become free from so many sins just by saying Hare Krishna. You've become purified. But that chanting of Hare Krishna, it has to go further for them to develop love of Krishna. So it's good for them, but the purpose of the Mahamantra is not to free people from sin. It's to give love of Krishna. So that's what it means. But it's a good question, because to say it doesn't have any effect, we can't say that. It doesn't have any effect because it's not true. But just like if you worship the deity, but you think the deity is marble, it's not going to have much effect, right? So it's similar to that. Like everything you do in Krishna consciousness, it has to be done properly. You know, you can offer something, but if you're just offering it because you're supposed to, but not out of any affection for Krishna, it doesn't have the same effect. So sometimes Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or specifically Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, makes statements which are very extreme, like Krishna is not even present when you chant, because you're chanting offensively. And, you know, Prabhupada says, no, he's dancing on your tongue. But his point is that until you become offenseless in your chanting, it's not going to awaken love of God. It doesn't have the potency. Namabhas doesn't have the potency to give love of God. But Namabhas is where you start. So then it takes you there. Does that make sense? Thank you, Tribhuvanath. That was a good question. Okay.
Anyone have a question on our Zoom? I'm not sure if Lamise has a question. Lamise?
Yeah, you can also, if you like, you can also share the experience you had chanting that we just did. If it was good or bad or whatever it was, you could share your experience and we could discuss that.
So we have a question from D. What can you do to motivate yourself when you're lacking motivation?
Yeah. There's a lot of things you can do. You get a friend to bother you. Call me up at 4 a.m. and wake me up, you know, or let's chant together at 5 a.m. Or, you know, you can really play into association when you need motivation. Like I think a lot of us, it's really hard to do something alone, but if there's just one person that's going to show up at a certain time, we'll do it every day. Have you had that experience? I just worked on a project, and this devotee came every day at a certain time. And once he left, I couldn't finish the project because he wasn't coming. I couldn't make the time because I had so many other things to do. But because he was coming, I always somehow or other made the time, right? So association is super powerful motivation. But also what is a great motivation is a mathematical equation. If I continue going on like this, what's going to be the result? If I keep adding zeros to my life, when I'm 75, what do I have? A lot of zeros. So sometimes you just have to do the math. Like, what would be the ramification of me improving in this particular area, multiplied, for most of you, you're young, multiply it by 50 years. And it's like, wow, I can put a number in front of those zeros. That's going to be fantastic. So sometimes motivation just takes standing back and thinking about the future. If I go on like this, what's going to be the result? And sometimes that's kind of scary to do that, but that's what's necessary because you realize you're going to end up with a result you don't want. And that if you change something, you're going to end up with a result you do want. And that can be motivating. But I would say that and association. So Saradiya Rasa is asking if anyone wants to start the 5 a.m. Japa Club. And you all go on Zoom and chant together. I guess that becomes 4 a.m. in UK. Wow. Oh, okay. So how do we do that, Saradiya Rasa? They all, or Leela Shakti, talk to Leela Shakti, she'll figure it out. Well, if you want to join, we'll create a Zoom conference. We have one every day in America, but it's for you, it would be, what, like 6 p.m. or something? Yeah. Okay.
All right, so we have two questions that have just popped up. One
Okay.
from Bhaktin Tavi Singh, who says, Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to you, Maharaj. Thank you for the lecture. How best can one serve and offer to a deity at home and gain benefits from it?
I think it's the same thing. The essence of bhakti is not what you do, but it's the mood you do it with. So Lord Chaitanya was speaking to Ramananda Roy, and he was asking him questions. What's the ultimate goal? And Ramananda Roy, by the divine arrangement of Mahaprabhu, said different things, which were falling short of pure devotional service. And it wasn't until Ramananda Roy said that you should serve Krishna without any desire to become free from misery, without any desire for liberation, without any desire for any material benefit, that Lord Chaitanya said, yes, you've hit it on the head. So that's what we're trying to come to, unmotivated service. Service only motivated by the desire to please Krishna. And that's the mood we're talking about in japa, and that's the mood in deity worship, in offering. That's the whole essence of bhakti. That's what Prabhupada came to give. And so that's our target in whatever we do. And so if that's your target in deity worship and offering, if that's your target in japa, then you're definitely on target, because that's where we're going. And that's what Krishna wants from us. That's what touches Krishna's heart, that we want to please him without any other motive. So we can pray for that desire. We can try to manifest it in the offering. You know, when you offer something, it's not what you offer, because the offering is just a vehicle for your emotion. That's all. Okay, I'm going to offer an apple, right? But what are you really offering? Are you offering an apple? Or are you offering your devotion? You're offering your devotion, and the vehicle, and the apple's carrying it. That's all it is. So that's the idea. The offering is the vehicle for the devotion. So you place your devotion on the apple and then offer the apple. With no devotion on the apple, he may not eat it, because he doesn't really need to. But it said Krishna's appetite increases according to the love with which something is offered. And so he'll eat banana peels if it's offered with love. And you may make pizza and ice cream, and he won't eat it because it's not offered. I don't even know if he likes pizza, but anyway, rasgula, pakora, samosa. You may make all these things, and he may be like, I'm not really hungry. Okay. Another question?
Okay, so I'm noting firstly, before I take any other questions, that it is already 2 minutes past 2. So before I take any other questions, I'd just like to gather from the floor, if it's okay, if we allow a further 5 minutes for questions, and then we wrap up and conclude the session. If everyone is in agreement, then I will take perhaps 1 or 2 questions. So if everybody's in agreement, we can continue like that.
What was planned after this? You have something after this, or you just finish after this?
Usually we just finish after this. I just need to make sure that everybody is...
Yeah, okay, so that's good. I understand. So, what also would be good is that anyone who needs to leave or wants to leave can leave, and anyone who wants to stay, because I don't know if I can finish in 5 minutes. I'm not famous for short answers for questions. I'm pretty thorough in my answers. So if anyone needs to leave or for whatever reason wants to leave, that's fine. That way, if we have to go more than 5 minutes, no one will feel like, oh, I can't leave. It'll be disrespectful. I will not feel disrespected or offended. I will love you all. If you leave now or you don't leave now, it's fine. So that way, we give everyone the choice. Is that okay? I won't go that long, don't worry. But if I go more than 5 minutes, it just gives you the option, okay? So the question, what's the next question?
So the next question is from Lamise. Hare Krishna Prabhu. I am currently assisting to cultivate two young ladies in their late 30s. They've started chanting about 2 rounds this week. I've been asked by a senior temple devotee how the movement will deal with their LGBTQ status as they consider themselves activists. They've not been introduced to the temple yet, but I'm of the opinion that this is their spiritual journey. How do I deal with this in my personal capacity?
Well, you have two things, how you deal with them and how the community deals with them. And so this is difficult because I don't know the community you're in and how the community deals with it. But you really have to, if you're going to deal with them in one way and the community is going to deal with them in another way, there's got to be discussion in the community how we want to approach this. Because obviously we don't want to discourage anyone. And I just read a statistic, I think, maybe some of you know, maybe my statistics are wrong, but I think 5% of the population is gay. Does anybody know? Is that correct? Or anyone have a statistic? Or anyone want to Google it while we're talking? But let's just assume. Let's just assume a small percentage of the population. If we say 5%, that's for every 100 devotees in your temple, that means 5 people are gay. For every 500 people in your temple, that means 25 people are gay. You know, it's not uncommon. So you don't want to discourage anybody, whatever gender they are, or gender they prefer, or how they ended up. We don't want to discourage, but we have to be aligned in how we approach these people. Everyone in the temple has to be aligned. Otherwise, you may be supportive and someone may say something that's not supportive. And then we have to know how supportive we can be. You know, at what point can we not support? So the principle, the basic principle is we encourage everyone to be Krishna conscious. We encourage everyone to follow the principles. It doesn't matter who they are or where they've come from. And the specific thing we don't encourage, obviously, is illicit connection. So we, you know, if they're a couple, all right, follow the principles, be Krishna conscious. You know, there's no limitation on anybody, but we can't. You know, we're in a situation where Prabhupada never encouraged gay people to marry, and now I don't know in your country, but in many states in America, they can marry. So. You know, society's evolving, ISKCON's evolving, we're growing together. These are, you know, topics of how to be more inclusive. So I'm not sure if that answered your question, and I'm not sure exactly if you're asking how to deal with them. What was she actually asking, Leela Shakti? How to deal with them, or how not to deal with them, or?
I think perhaps the question is the main point is they've not been introduced to the temple yet, but Lamise feels like that they should because this is their chosen spiritual journey.
Yeah.
So she wants to know how to deal with perhaps them in her personal capacity as well as the community
Yeah.
that makes the temple.
Yeah. So then I think my answer is correct. You need to talk to the temple president because, because however you're encouraging them and however you're guiding them, you don't want them to hear 3 different opinions from 3 other people. And as you know, you're in South Africa, so who knows better prejudice than you do. And prejudices go deep, and prejudices are in the heart of people who don't even know they have those prejudices, because that's how they were raised. And so some people are raised to dislike homosexuals. And it's just a reality we have to deal with. So if we want to encourage people, then we're going to have to create an environment in which people are encouraged. And this doesn't just apply to homosexuals, to anyone. We want to create an environment where people feel welcome, they don't feel judged, they feel accepted for who they are and what they can do in devotional service. So as long as that mood is there in the temple, then it's no problem. But if the temple's not used to that, or they've never had gay people, then there probably needs to be some discussion so that when they come to the temple, they feel comfortable. Something really interesting that I think would help you in your preaching. You probably heard of the Bhakti Center in New York. And they had I think he was a devotee, but a professional in the marketing world, advertising world. And they were trying to come up with their brand or their logo. And their logo is their brand is something like, "You've come home," or you feel at home, or I think it's more like, "You've come home." And the way they came up with that brand was because they said that's what people tell us when they come to the Bhakti Center. They say, "I feel like I've come home." So I thought, wow, that's beautiful. That's how we want people to feel when they come to the temple. So I think that's the discussion you want to have with your congregation. How can we make everyone feel at home? And maybe use these 2 ladies as just the impetus to be able to create that mood. That's super important. Did that answer your question? Or was there, you can ask more if there's more that I didn't answer.
Let me say it answers the question. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I've got about 3 questions on the chat panel, but I did notice that Shadia Rasa raised a hand on the panel, so perhaps I'll give her the opportunity to ask a question. Shadia, if you still have your question.
Hare Krishna, dear Leela Shakti. It's okay, you can please first let everyone else ask their questions.
All right, not a problem. I'm muted, that is why. I'll attempt to project more because I hear our viewers on Facebook aren't hearing me quite well. So we have here a question from Paramanand Surya Prakash, who says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, when chanting, sometimes you feel sleepy. You close your eyes and devotees may end up waking you up. Is this an offense when you become sleepy like this?
Is it offense if you sleep during chanting, or is it offense if devotees wake you up? And when they wake you up, you say the famous bona fide devotee line, "I wasn't sleeping." Right? If you're sleepy during japa, yeah, it's obviously is an offense, but maybe you just need to rest a little more. Or maybe you need to stand up. I have found personally in my own practice of chanting that if I hit a certain point of tiredness, I can't do it. It's just there's no energy. And my mind just melts like butter, and I can't even think about everything I just told you. I'm too tired. So in those cases, sometimes I will rest a little. Or sometimes I just allow myself to nod out a little for 5 minutes, then I wake up, I'm fine. So were stories of devotees falling asleep in class, and Prabhupada stopping the class and telling that devotee, go to sleep. Because he was just like, he couldn't stay awake, so what was the point? So, but my experience also is when you gain a greater taste for the holy name, you sleep less when you chant because you like it. And when you like something, it keeps you awake, right? Now I have a question. Have any of you ever fallen asleep while eating ice cream? I don't think so. My daughter did when she fell asleep eating when she was like 3 or something. Kids do that, right? Why wouldn't you fall asleep eating ice cream? Well, obviously, because if you fall asleep, you will no longer be able to enjoy the ice cream because you'll be asleep, right? So you stay awake. So imagine you're chanting and you're tasting the holy name like it's ice cream. You probably won't fall asleep, right? Because if you do, you won't be able to taste it. So falling asleep can be a sign that we're just exhausted, we didn't get enough rest, or it can be a sign that we don't actually have a taste and we're getting bored. And so, you want to determine, did I just not get enough rest? Do I just need to stand up and breathe? Or am I just chanting like a robot and I'm boring myself to sleep? Some things to think about. As the joke goes, if you have insomnia, read Bhagavatam and chant Hare Krishna. It will cure it. But if you're an advanced devotee, that's not going to cure your insomnia. It's going to actually give you insomnia. You'll stay awake all night chanting and reading. Okay, next question.
So we'll take two final questions and I think we'll wrap up. The first question is from Marco Mantovani. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Chanting in the mind, Manashiksha Japa, is considered to be very powerful. I've
Yes.
read that Ja means Jamna, birth, and Pa means Papa, sins, and this practice is glorious because it eradicates untold sins and frees from birth into this world. Does this apply to both whispered chanting and mind chanting?
No.
Is it possible that whispered chanting enhances mental chanting and vice versa?
There are three kinds of chanting: out loud, whispering silently, and in the mind when you're not chanting at all. So they're all three distinct elements. And Prabhupada didn't recommend manasa in the mind for most devotees. Prabhupada said it's an advanced stage. And I think he felt that for many of us, we would actually get distracted. So, we have to follow what Prabhupada said, even though there may be other injunctions. But generally, he said, quietly or out loud is the process. Prabhupada said he sometimes chants out loud when he can't control his mind. He said sometimes he chants out loud. Jagannath Das Babaji chanted very loud sometimes. Takahari Das did all three. But Prabhupada generally didn't recommend, he didn't demonstrate it either. We never chanted with him where he was just... So maybe in a more elevated state you can consider it later on in your life as a possibility if you're qualified, when you feel qualified. Of course, if we're very sick and have no energy, we have no choice but to chant in our minds. Okay.
And then Sharadia, your question will be the last for today.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So my question is, when we're trying to inspire people to start practicing Krishna consciousness, but they might be in an environment which just really encourages them, not to follow the lifestyle that is recommended. What is the best course of action if we want to encourage them? Is it all right if we don't? If we don't tell them, for instance, stop drinking, stop doing this, stop doing that, but we just try and encourage them to continue with their japa and then have the faith that, the holy name will purify them? Or do we have a responsibility to, at some point, say, you should stop, certain activities?
At some point, they should, well, we don't have to tell them they should stop, but at some point they need to understand that if they do certain things, it's going to enhance their chanting. And if they do certain things, it's going to prevent them from going deeper. They're going to hit a wall. And you as the teacher will determine when that time is. But it's not so much like you have to do this, but it's if you want to take it to the next level, these are the things you can do. You know, so I would do it more. I find if you do it in terms of, I don't know if the word is enticement, if that's the best word, but the word is, you know, would you like to take it up a notch? Because if you do this, your chanting will get better. So then it becomes more of like, here's dessert, then here's the spinach, and you have to eat your spinach. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, no, it does. It does make sense. I suppose that requires like intelligence and insight to know when to, you know, kind of give them which advice. And it's like
also,
it's
yeah. Go ahead,
and
sorry.
it's just this fine line of, you know, being, because also, I mean, most people these days they relate to you just as a friend. So I sometimes in that position find it difficult. Like you don't usually like tell your friend, you know, what to do. You can encourage, but then sometimes I feel like, yeah, it's a difficult position. Like how firm, you know, should you be?
Well, you could, you know, let's say they're not vegetarian. You'd say, you know, you want to try to be vegetarian for a week? I'll cook for you. Let's see how it goes. Would you like that? You know, I'll bring it over every day or something like that. And the other thing is when you have like retreats or you can invite them to stay at the temple for a weekend, because during that time they're not going to do anything other than Krishna consciousness. And that can help a lot also. You can, you know, have a retreat. Well, this retreat, these are the principles we're following for this weekend. So then they get to experience it. And they might think, well, I didn't think I could, you know, do this, but I did it all weekend. Maybe I'll continue doing it. And at the end of the retreat, you know, it's like, who would like to continue, you know, not eating meat? Or who would like to continue whatever? So there are different ways. Association is extremely powerful because ultimately we do what we do because of association. So that's what I would say is a twofold program. You know, encourage them, facilitate them, and give them association as much as possible. That's why we do it, right? Because we have association, isn't it? But for myself, after doing kirtan and going to Bhagavad Gita class for a month and a half, I started following all the principles. And nobody really told me to do it. So that also can happen through chanting. We know. But I think you were kind of thinking, if it's not happening, what to do. Sharing, you know, also sharing realizations is a great way. You know, this is my experience. Can I share a realization with you? You know, I was, you know, when I stopped eating meat for a week, it was like amazing. You know, I started thinking this way and that way. And so, you know, you're sharing your own experience. So that's also, it's like a biography, reading a biography. It doesn't mean you have to do what the person did, but it could be beneficial. Is that okay? And of course, everybody's different, so not one way fits all. Because with some people, you can, you know, you have a relationship with them, you can just tell them, you know, you should stop doing all this. It's just destroying you. And if you know that they know that, it's easy to tell them. So you know this is destroying you. Because they've already told you, this is destroying me. So if they've told you, you can tell them back. You just stop doing it. You know it's destroying you. What can I do to help you? So different relationships, right? Everybody's different. Being heavy works for some people and it backfires for other people. So you have to judge.